Ecuador is one of the most beautiful countries in South America. This is the Podocarpus National Park, one of the two most important protected areas in the entire world for rare bird species. The red-faced parrot and the white-faced parakeet are two of the rarest, according to the International Council for Bird Preservation. But even in this national park, they remain under threat. Although Podocarpus is home, often the only home of over 600 species of birds and a huge range of other flora and fauna, its future has been in the balance over recent years. Despite protests from conservationists keen to protect the wildlife, in 1992, the Ecuadorian government, desperate for foreign exchange to prop up its tottering economy, passed a new law. This made it legal to conduct mining operations in Ecuador's national parks, provided it's in the national interest, that is to say, it brings in some foreign investment. And this is what could now happen. This is the village of Nambija, just 30 miles away from the park, and home to over 10,000 local people, all trying to make a living from mining and risking their lives in the process. They call this adit or tunnel mining. People simply dig into the hillside. Nobody uses roof supports. As a result, landslides are common. In May 1993, a single landslide killed over 300 people. And that's not the only danger. As part of the mining process, the gold is amalgamated with mercury. Prolonged contact with the contaminated water causes serious disorders of the central nervous system in later life. But these people seem unaware of the risks to their health. Podocarpus is relatively hard to reach, so few of the Nambija miners have traveled there. But they don't represent the biggest threat to Podocarpus's three seemingly tranquil climate zones. That comes from the foreign corporations given the green light by the Ecuadorian government. A Norwegian company called Equinor was the first to begin putting the infrastructure in place to support a major mining operation. And as soon as there was a road, a number of enterprising local miners used it to gain access for themselves. Ecuador is one of the poorest countries in South America, and the town of Loja, just outside the park, is no exception to the rule. But despite this, a group of young local people have come together to try to save Podocarpus from the mining threat. The organization they founded is called Arcoiris, which means rainbow. Most of their activities are local. Here they're visiting a local school to tell the pupils about the environmental problems facing the area. But they've also become part of an international campaign as well. In early 1992, a group of young British scientists from the Imperial College of Science in London got in touch. They had formed a group called Parrots in Peril and were keen to try and help the fight for Podocarpus. In March that year, they travelled to Ecuador and met their counterparts from Arcoiris. An expedition was planned. Its aim would be to prove beyond doubt that both the red-faced parrot and the white-faced parakeet were indigenous to Podocarpus, and hopefully to identify specific areas of the park in which these two rare species could be found. Both groups felt that if they could amass more evidence about the ecological impact that mining would have on the park, there would be a greater chance of bringing pressure on Equinor to halt their operations. They started by surveying the area of the park in which mining was planned. And before long, they discovered a sizable population of red-faced parrots. With such tangible evidence of the ecological value of the area, they decided to mount a campaign to change Equinor's mining policies. The first step was to contact local environmental groups in Norway, the home of Equinor. The members of Parrots in Peril travelled to Norway to meet a Norwegian organisation called Future in Our Hands, who were already aware of Equinor and its activities. The two groups mounted an extensive media campaign, both in Norway and elsewhere in Europe. They hoped that bad publicity would bring a change in Equinor's policy and save the rich variety of flora and fauna in Podocarpus, and they were successful. In February 1993, largely as a result of their campaign, Equinor announced that it was pulling out of mining in Ecuador altogether. For once, the environmentalists had won.